Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome all of you in this course Housing Policy and Planning. I welcome you all to this course. In this course today we are going to take the lecture number 1. In this lecture we are going to introduce the subject housing policy and planning, but before I enter into the subject I will briefly discuss about how we are going to take the course from the day 1 to the end of the session, and how we will conduct the examination and the other assignments. So, before that let me talk about that why we have taken this course under the NPTEL series. Because you know that housing is a primary need, basic need of the human being. Now, in this picture you can see that the people who are living in a very inferior condition in our cities. It is a very representative picture. You will go to any city in India or any other country, you will find that people who are not having a minimum living condition for their stay. They lack the basic health facility, basic structural condition to withstand the natural disasters. So, this is the problem in our cities related to housing. On the other hand, if you go to the large cities, you will find that the multi-storied real estate development with very big buildings and very congested and compact cities, but in some cases those cities are not having enough infrastructure and the communities are not there. So, there is a big mismatch between the supply and the demand, and also you will find that even when we make the house, we do the housing for the common people, for lower income group and middle income group, we find that the social problem, this is basically a corridor, but the people using it as a that their day to day activities, which is not supposed to be done there. So, these are the social problem which are associated with the housing policy and planning and design. You might have seen this picture. This is an ongoing construction in some of the Indian in one of the Indian cities, and during the construction the whole building collapsed, and as a matter of fact many people died. So, this is the problem related to technicalities and legality of the building construction in housing. So, considering all these issues or considering all these factors, our motivation was why not we have a sound course on housing policy planning, so that the professionals and the academicians who are working in the field of housing, who are researching in the field of housing, they get a better know-how, and so that sometimes through this course and through some other actions in some time in future we can achieve the housing for all. So, this was the basic motivation because of which we developed this course. Now, how we will approach this course and what is the basic objective of this course? The intent is to learn the primary concepts, procedures related to housing policy and planning, and then after the course you will go through all the units of the course, and at the end of the course the primary objective of this course will be that you will be able to appraise the housing policies at the central level and state level, how it affects the housing development in your cities, and illustrate and describe the process of housing planning when you do exactly on your city, how you do in your cities and the villages. Now, through this course who will be benefited? Basically the professionals, students and researchers who are working in the field of housing, or who wish to work in this field of housing to deliver housing or to improve the quality of the housing for the common people, they will be benefited from this course. Primarily the professionals who are working at the central and state government department, who are working in the field of housing and infrastructure development, or students and researchers who are associated with the works which is done by the central and state government, they will be benefited. Apart from the government sector, the sector who are working in the developers, manufacturers, management consultancies and other corporate offices who are directly or indirectly associated with the housing development, definitely they will get a advantage, or they will get the benefit from this course in terms of the current knowledge and the skills. Apart from the government and the private sector, there are various NGOs and semi-government organizations who are working in the housing field. Maybe they are working in the slum areas, maybe they are working in the village areas. So, they will also benefit that how the overall paradigm of the housing policy and planning basically works in the cities. So, they will also get much benefit from this course. Apart from that, international agencies, basically those who are working in the international agencies, but they are focusing on the national sector or some regional sector or some state level issues in our country, they will also get the benefit from this course. Now, we have basically divided the course into 4 sections. In these 4 sections, 2 sections are major and 2 sections are minor. So, in the beginning we will start this session with the introduction section. This is a very brief session. This will bring all the participants of this course in the same platform, so that we can start the course in a common platform of the knowledge level. The second unit is the housing policy. This is the major unit or major section. It will involve 3 to 4 weeks of lectures and deliberations and discussions. Then we have the housing planning, which is 4 to 5 weeks. This is another major section. We will discuss thoroughly about all the planning matters related to housing development. Then after that we have the summary and conclusion stage, where we will sum up all the discussion what we have in the policy and planning matters, and we will take the course for the further level. We will indicate some of the areas where the further research and the development is required. So, this 4 units, 2 major units and including 2 introduction and summary units. Every week we will have 5 small lecture units, total 40 units, along with the assignments, discussion cases and some reading materials, which will be giving time to time each week and also at the end of the course. Now, at the introduction section, we have told you already that we have 4 sections. In the introduction section, we have the first unit will be discussed on the introduction to housing. Then we will discuss the overall situation of the housing in India especially, and for all the states. What is the existing situation, what are the issues and the problems prevailing in the housing sector. We will discuss the housing typologies. To start with the basic discussion on the housing planning and policy, it is very important to identify and to differentiate and to know in a better way, in a detailed manner, the housing typologies and how they function in a city level. In the housing policy, we will discuss the overall planning policy and the strategic matter at every level, at the government level, central government level, state government level and also at the local level. We will discuss we will have an assessment of the past programs, like what are the programs Government of India and some of the state governments they did after the independence, and what are the outcome and assessment of those programs and interventions, and what are the key learnings from the program, so that we can take the learning and go forward for the further development. It is very important to know the legal provisions. The legal provisions in terms of the central government acts, the state government's acts, rules, regulation, which affects the development of the housing and the infrastructure in our cities. We cannot build a house in a sky. We have to build the house and housing in the land. and the land is not very much available in our cities and in our regions. So, how the land can be assembled, land can be procured and land can be utilized judiciously to make the housing more effective, more affordable for the people, and how the land reforms can help more supply of the land in cities, that also will be included in this course. We will discuss thoroughly the affordability aspect of the house. We know that India is a poor country. We have a large section of the population in the economic group of economically weaker section, BPL and the lower income group section. So, how we can supply more amount of houses within their affordable limit with or without a subsidy by the government, and how housing finance can act to help them to procure a better house, bigger house, so that they can improve on their house. That will be included in this course. We will definitely cover all the national housing policies and what is the major direction on the national housing policies, how we are learning from the first policy, second policy and the other policies. We will discuss some of the element of the state housing policies, major salient features of the state housing policies, how a state government can formulate its housing policy to accommodate each and every category of the housing, that will be covered. Then programs and schemes, what specific programs and schemes, how to do the programs, what are the problems on the programs, and what are the possible issues and how to address and cope up to all those issues, that will be covered. Then in the second major section, which is housing planning, which will be covered in almost 5 to 6 weeks. We will cover we will start with the city and regional planning, how the overall planning framework works in a city and region, that will be discussed. Following the city and regional planning framework, we will discuss the strategic planning. Then we will discuss the development control, how development controls as a subset of the legal part, how it can help and help and address the development of the built environment, which can help decision maker and the planners to make a city, to make a better housing environment in our cities. Housing infrastructure and amenities. Without the infrastructure and basic amenities, a house cannot be a livable place. So, how to plan those housing infrastructure and amenities, how to make the provision for each infrastructure and amenities, that will be covered in this section. Will after this basic discussion, we will cover the planning principles of various kinds of housing typologies. We will start with the group housing and plotted housing. Then the cooperative housing, not only the formal set of the housing, we will also discuss the housing development for the slum improvement, which is kind of informal, sometimes illegal. So, we will discuss that part as well. Apart from the formal and informal housing typologies, we will cover special housing types like say old age homes and the working persons hostel, disaster resistant housing, and also we will cover the informal housing typology like the urban villages and the illegal construction, how to deal with all those kind of various housing typologies. We will discuss in details how a technology can take a very bigger role to deliver housing in a big way, because the current technology which constructs the building is age old technologies and it takes much more time. So, we will discuss in details that how technology can take a very important role. And apart from all the technical matters, the planning matters, policy matters, it is the government who can basically facilitate the housing development, and the management and the governance part of the housing development will also be covered. And in the concluding session, we will have the overall discussion and we will try to have some projects in the end, so that you can do the projects and you can submit to us, and we will take your feedback, so that we can use your feedback, very valuable feedback from this course, so that we can use your feedback in the further courses, because this is the first course in this line in the subject of the housing through the NPTEL. Now, what will be the course activities and the expected role from you? Basically, our modalities will be through the lecture, discussions and test, weekly test and the test in the end of the semester. We will have the test and assignments and the feedback through the question and answer and quiz form. We will have some guided reading, we will give you some reference so that you can read in your own time and understand in a better way. Then if possible we will have some provision for the term paper and some case study, case related projects, studying of the live project, live cases, so that you can understand and internalize the planning methods. So, this will be the course activities through the all the lecture series. And also definitely those who are interested to appear for the examination to get a certificate, the examination will be there, the detailed methodology and the details of the examination will be available to you in due course of time. Our assessment and evaluation will be basically in the two stage. During the course, during the lectures, every week we will have the test and assignments, that is the part of the formative assessment, and at the end we have the summative assessment through the project and the final examination. We will have the certification and feedback, as I have told. Your role is very important. Your role is I expect a very active participation through this course, and active participation in terms of following the course, reading the reference materials which will be given to you, and the reading materials which will be given to you, and also giving the feedback time to time, and to participate in the question answer forum when during the conducting of the course. Okay. So, this is the overview of the course, how we will take the course from the day 1 to the day 40. Now, having said that, let me start with the introduction session. You know that most of you are coming from the either undergraduate or postgraduate level from the architecture, planning or engineering or management or sociology or maybe geography background. So, it is very important to start the main discussion of this course like housing policy and planning methods from some point of knowledge level, where all of us we come to a same platform, so that we can understand some basic typologies, basic terminologies, concepts, and so that we can start the bigger discussion in a better way. So, what I thought that let me start with 3 aspects like introduction to housing, housing classification and the existing situation. These 3 topics will be covered as a introductory capsule, which will be common to all of you, so that if you digest you can follow these 3 modules. After this module we can directly enter to the discussion on the policy and the planning matter, right. So, okay. Now, let us start the introduction to the housing. So, in the introduction to the housing, we will define the definition, the housing and the human need, its relation and its significance. So, if you see the dictionary definition, you will find that the Oxford Dictionary defines housing as the houses and flats considered collectively. So, it is a very simple description, but for our case we need to define, we need to describe the housing in a better way from various perspectives, so that we can understand what housing exactly means for our purpose and how we can take that definition further towards the other session of the courses. Now, let us see that what are the various perspective on the housing. Number 1. As we have discussed the definition of the housing as per the dictionary, it is the multiple units. Housing always mean to be multiple units. It is not a single house where you are living in your own plot or in your house, but always we mean housing as a collective phenomenon of housing, collective phenomenon of not only housing, the community facilities, the infrastructure and community as a whole. So, multiple units is the first dimension, first essential parameter to define a housing. Second, as I told, it is the community, it is the people, it is the society, it is the culture, it is the community which is the ultimate, which is the objective to make a community, and housing becomes the method, the process to make a community. So, our objective is to make a robust community, so that we can have a very livable and very nice environment, built environment where we can stay together. you can understand that a housing unit or a basic house unit without the basic services like say water supply, sanitation, solid waste disposal, electricity, how it is very difficult to stay there. In the older ages, when we stayed in the caves or when we stayed in the village habitation, you know that that time there was no electricity, there was no basic amenities, but when we stay, when we live in a city condition, all these basic services are essential to live in a better condition, live healthily and happily. So, basic services is a very very important dimension for the housing policy and planning. You know that the livelihood or the job is a very important part of our life. When we choose a housing or when we try to purchase a house, the first thing what we look for is that how far the housing location from our job location. Why? Because the more distant is the job location from our house, the more travel time it will be required from our home to workplace, and more travel time means it is the less time for our family, less time for our individual, less time for our work. That is why the relation between the livelihood and the work is very very important in considering, in defining a housing. So, slowly you will find that livelihood takes a very big role in housing policy and planning. So, here we identify livelihood as a very important dimension of housing policy and planning. Then it is the affordability or the financial capability of the people which determines the capability to purchase a house or to procure a house, and in a country like India we have different economic groups, and based on the different economic groups various affordability limits are there. The challenge is to how to make most out of the minimum affordability level. So, affordability is a very crucial financial aspect in defining a housing, and at the last it is the individuality which is also very important part, because ultimately as an individual when we stay in a house or we live in a housing complex or in a community, it is the relation between the individual and the space. The space may be the bedroom space, may be the study room space, may be the open interactive area, it may be the playground, but it is the relation between the individual and the spaces which makes a house as a housing and a sweet home. So, individuality matters a lot. You will find that in your house maybe the color scheme, maybe the design, maybe the furniture layout, maybe the internal layout is different than your neighbors, even if the other parameters are same. So, it is the individuality, your choice, your selection, your preference, your priority which makes your home different than the other home. So, individuality takes a very big role in defining housing. So, in short, this 6 parameter, the multiple units, community, services, livelihood, affordability and individuality, these are the various dimensions of the housing which we will take forward for the further discussion. So, let us see through the diagrammatic representation these 6 dimensions, and these 6 dimensions are also interlinked between every dimension. So, this is very important. I request you that please keep this in your mind because this will be utilized throughout our lecture series. Okay. Now, let us discuss about the housing and the human need, that how a simple house satisfies a human need. To discuss this particular aspect, I will bring a diagram which you might have seen. You can guess that what is the diagram. This diagram is basically the conceptual representation of the human need. This was proposed by famous sociologist Abraham Maslow through this diagram. In this diagram he says that there are 5 categories of human need, starting from the basic category to the further categories, and every categories have a very distinct relation and distinct position in human life. Now, let us see one by one. The first category which is given at the bottom of this conceptual pyramid, which is called as a physiological need, which is nothing but the food, water, warmth and the rest. A house which basically primarily essentially gives you the physiological warmth or the rest. Apart from the food and water, you can get the food from your occupation or job, but all the other physiological needs, including the safety needs given by a house. Think about the situation where earthquake, cyclone or the flood or the landslide, these disasters comes, and you will find that there are some houses which are still strong and protects people, and there are houses which are not so strong, but which affects people life, people died. So in those cases, when the houses are not that much strong, on those cases they fail to give the physiological needs and the safety needs for the housing, but a strong house which is designed and constructed based on the technicalities and the all the scientific methods, that will provide the physiological needs and safety needs for the people. So these two needs, which is at the bottom of the pyramid, which is called as the basic needs. Now, when you fulfill these two needs, like we fulfill our physiological needs and safety needs, now we need we have further needs, like say belongingness and the relationship. We need to have our family, we need to have our community, we need to have our relatives which will come to our house, or we will go to their house, and when we have relatives, friends around us, we feel comfortable and we feel fine. And you can understand that even your house and your community area, this gives that space to create your community, to create your relatives, to create your families as well, and relationship. After that, it is a esteem needs which is important. Esteem is nothing but the recognition of the people as a human being. Think about the situation in our cities. To think about two situations, a person who is having a house and a person who is not having a house, maybe who is living in the slums, or who is living in the pavements or maybe open area. So you can understand that a person who is having a house, definitely he has more recognition as a person, as a human being in our society, because he enjoys all the basic needs, right. So esteem needs, which is nothing but the recognition or the human prestige, which is also related to house, because a house fulfills all the other basic amenities. So this belongingness and the family and the social needs and the esteem needs, which is individual, these needs are called as a psychological needs. So where the first two layer in the bottom of the pyramid is the basic need, and second two layer is basically the psychological need of the people. Now the final stage is very important. When we fulfill all these needs, then we have the self actualization, which is nothing but which is fulfilling the human potential. You can understand that those people who can fulfill all the other four needs which is in the bottom of the pyramid, after that only they can work better, they can work productively, they can work more, and they can work for their life, and they can enjoy their life more, and they can fulfill their human potential in a bit better way. So this cannot come directly because it is in the top of the pyramid. This will come first. So you can imagine that a house or a housing complex or a community will come one by one: physiological needs, safety needs, belongingness, esteem, and self actualization one by one. So this will come through the house. It is inevitable. You can understand the relation between the human needs and the house. So what are the significance for this relation between the house and the human need? So it is a basic need. Housing is a basic needs. In all cities you will find that it is the mostly 50 to 60% of the city which is covered by the housing. So think about this gigantism, its volume, its quantity, it is not very small. So the problem is, that is why it is very gigantic. As a result of that, it makes the predominant built character. Wherever you go, in which city, any cities, you will find that the city image and the city built character is determined by the housing quality, and that is why it always received the government attention from all category, because this is the primary need. There is a investment and job opportunity at all level. Housing provides maximum job opportunity after the agricultural and industrial sector. So housing is a very important factor in economic generation. And most importantly, in last 20 years we have seen phenomenal change in the housing policy planning, the technological developments, the approach thought, the conceptualization of the housing, how we considered housing as a subject. And as a matter of that, the traditional knowledge what we learned 20 to 30 years back may not work in the current day housing policy and practice. So, therefore, that is the significance of studying of the housing policy. And it is also important that in though we teach housing as a subject in the undergraduate and postgraduate, but there are various numbers of students in our country who cannot reach a course like housing policy and planning. That is why this is very significant to have a course like this. So, let us summarize the basic introduction of the session. We told that housing can be described from various dimensions. A simple definition like a multiple units is not sufficient for us. We identified that it is the multiple units, community, basic services, livelihood, affordability and the individuality. These 6 dimensions are the kind of a basic pillars of the definition of the housing. Housing serves the basic physiological needs, psychological needs and the personal needs, and when these needs are fulfilled, people are motivated to do better, and that is why the human need and the housing has a great relation which we discussed. And why it is very insignificant? Because it got the attention from all the government sector, NGOs and all the international sector, because it is the human basic need and it covers 50 to 60% in the city. It is the predominant build character and it is also a complex problem. It is multidisciplinary in nature. Only one person, one architect, one planner or one engineer cannot solve this problem. It is a problem where everybody has to come together, work together to solve the problem. And there are various ongoing debates which were there in the last 20 or 15 years, and because of that the whole traditional knowledge has changed from the older paradigm to the new paradigm. So, as a matter of that the subject has changed a lot. That is why it is very significant to learn housing policy and planning in a greater way. So, with this we conclude this first unit of the housing introduction. In the second part we will have another discussion of the housing introduction. We will discuss the conceptual framework of the classification of the housing, how we differentiate various typologies of the housing, so that we can start the further discussion in a better way. So, I thank you once again to participate in the course and to start the course from the lecture 1. Thank you.